Good afternoon, 5 o'clock here at WDBO. Our top story, Israel on high alert a day after a top Hamas official was killed in a precision attack in Beirut, his death raising the risk of drawing in the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. Israel refusing to comment on reports it was behind the killing, which had the hallmarks of an Israeli operation.
The White House would not provide specifics on where Israel stands in reaching its goal of eradicating Hamas. National Security spokesman John Kirby said the administration has estimates on how many Hamas fighters are left, but he would not put numbers out there, saying that Hamas still has, quote, significant force posture inside Gaza.
Are you going to eliminate the ideology? No. And are you likely going to erase the group from existence? Probably not. But can you eliminate the threat that Hamas poses to the Israeli people? Absolutely.
Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
No injuries are reported after a massive blaze erupted in the Florida home of Miami Dolphins star wide receiver Tyreek Hill. Hill was pulled out of practice and told about the emergency. He was allowed to head home. QB Tua Tagovailoa with the good news.
I think the main thing is his family is safe. His loved ones are good. He's good as well. It's a little cliche to say, but things like that, part of the house, some of those things can be replaceable. But I'm just glad that a lot of his family members are safe.
There's no word yet on what caused the fire. 5:02 here at WDBO.
That is not an easy name to say, so.
That's what I was just telling Joe. I practiced and I still messed it up. I'm like, Tagovailoa. I can say it, and then you get on the air and you don't say it. Thank you, Karen. It's good to be back.
I didn't know we were going bowling after this, Joe.
It's a public employee-only bowling outing, though.
Okay, got it, yeah.
Just Tom Terry.
Now, from the Bogan Munz & Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz & Munz.
Well, we got a new crash, I-4 westbound before 436. The exit ramp right lane is closed. Another wreck, 429 northbound, right before the turnpike. We're looking at that on the cameras right now. You got a fire truck that's blocking that right lane, and it looks like multiple vehicles involved there. Big delays out of Polk County, I-4 eastbound from just after 557 to just before US 27, where they have a crash there. It's blocking the left lane. They've got a wrecker with the car, one of the cars at least, on the back. So that should be cleared out of here in the next 15, 20 minutes. Didn't get what you wanted for Christmas? Get to Refresh Computers. Dell computers starting at just $129. RefreshComputers.net and the Superstore in Longwood. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Local news, national news, even feel-good news, delivering the topics that are relevant to you.
That's why I listen to Joe. He covers it all.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
Well, first of all, welcome back to you. We're glad you're back. And,
Well, thank you.
And kudos to you for trying to pronounce the quarterback's name of the Miami Dolphins. If I was you, I would have just said the quarterback said.
I was really confident I could say it.
Taga Tua.
See, that's
then
the
you
thing.
just call him Tua. Just you're on a first name basis.
And you know, the sports broadcasters know that you can't mock or make fun of people's names. I mean, because that's not cool. We don't make fun of people's names. It is their identity. It's what they were born with. But sometimes, and Laurel, you and I, and pretty much every broadcaster I know does this. You'll know how to pronounce a name. You'll say it several times to yourself. You'll say it out loud, practicing it. And then when you're on the air, in spite of your best efforts,
it goes right out your head. Yep, exactly.
Absolutely butchered.
Yep. Brain overthinks it, and then you stumble.
I remember at the height of the war in Iraq, when I don't know if you remember when they had the playing cards. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember the playing cards, but there was a stack of cards, playing cards, and the enemy combatants were like the jack of spades or whatever, and
I still have those a deck of cards.
And so whenever they would catch one of the guys or kill one of the guys, and we would have to go report on it, we would look at the name, and I'm like, well, I'm not saying that name. I'm not reporting that guy's death, because I'll just say the ace of spades was killed today, because I'm not going to be able to say that name in any way. So. And I don't want to be disrespectful to the dead terrorists or anything, but I other people have that name as well. All right, look, coming up in about an hour from right now, a little bit less than an hour from now, there is our first launch of the new year from the Space Coast. There was a launch last night out on the West Coast at Vandenberg Space Force Station. Tonight, there's going to be a launch at 6:04 p.m. This is going to be a Swiss broadcast satellite, and you'll be able to hear that launch live. And the first stage booster is going to land at landing zone 1. So it's not going to be a barge out in the Atlantic. It's going to come back and land on land, which A, will make a spectacular sight for locals, and B, will trigger a sonic boom if you're in the neighborhood. But first, I want to share with you a discussion I had with Orlando Mayor Buddy Dyer. For several weeks now, have been trying to get a hold of Buddy Dyer. I had a lot of questions that I wanted to ask Mayor Buddy Dyer. And through his communications team, we finally settled on today at 3 p.m. we would have a discussion. And I had a pretty lengthy list of questions I wanted to rattle off to him. And they said, well, we can give you 10 minutes. I will tell you that the conversation went twice that long. It was a 20-minute conversation. And I know that a lot of people hate your political opponents. I'm not one of those people. I like Buddy Dyer. If you don't know him, if you've never met him, he's a really likable guy. He's a nice guy. I have known him since shortly after I moved to Orlando to work here at WDBO. He invited me down to his office, and I met with him face to face in his office the first time he and I spoke. And I have enjoyed a cordial relationship with him. We don't hang out on weekends. We don't golf together, anything like that. But I'm in the media. He's in the government. That's how it works. I'm a registered Republican. He's a registered Democrat. I get it. But I don't hate the guy. In fact, like I said, I like the guy. It kind of reminds me a little bit of, Sean Hannity talking about his relationship with Gavin Newsom. You can be political opponents, but you can still like a guy. So the conversation with Buddy Dyer ended up being quite a bit longer than what I was expecting. I was going to play back the entire interview tonight here on the radio. But since we spoke for 20 minutes, and frankly, all 20 minutes of it, he revealed interesting and newsworthy information about the city of Orlando and the future plans for the city of Orlando. I have decided to share this with you in 3 parts. Tonight is going to be part 1. Tomorrow at the same time, it'll be part 2. And Friday night at the same time, it'll be part 3. So I want to share with you the first part of my discussion with Mayor Buddy Dyer, in which we discussed that he is the longest term mayor in Orlando's history. But one of the main reasons I really wanted to talk to Buddy Dyer is I wanted to find out what the strategy is for the Black Lives Matter mural that is painted on Roslyn Avenue in downtown Orlando. So here I share with you part one of my three-part conversation with Orlando's Mayor Buddy Dyer.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year to all of your listeners. I'm doing great. Had a nice holiday season. We were home for the holidays. Did a couple ball games, and we're ready for the new year.
And I haven't talked to you since, but congratulations on your most recent election victory. You are the longest serving ever mayor of Orlando.
That is true, although that was the case beforehand as well.
Yeah, right.
But it was my biggest margin of victory. So
I mean, there are a lot of us. There are a lot of us that have never known another mayor of Orlando than Buddy Dyer. I'm one of those people. I moved here 10 years ago, and you're the only mayor I've ever known.
Well, the funny thing is, if I'm talking to anybody that's in school, not college, but high school down, I've been their mayor their whole life.
Yes, absolutely so. And as you look back, and you got 20 now, almost 21 years in office. I mean, do you have a moment that you're most proud of? Something that you that just puts a big smile on your face?
It's hard to pick just one, like picking among your children, right? Which one's your favorite? So I generally default to being able to create a sense of collaboration and partnership, because that's really what Central Florida, Orlando, Orange County is all about. You think about the big things that we have done, from the venues to Lake Nona to Creative Village to Sunrail to take your pick. It's all been because we've been able to work together. And we take for granted that in a lot of places, the local governments can't stand each other and can't work together on things. And the business community is at odds with the local governments. The not-for-profits aren't working together. So sometimes we take for granted how well we do things together here.
And you had mentioned previously that this is going to be your last term. Is that still the case?
That is still the case. I think I have enough experience now to give Orlando 4 good years. So you can look forward to the best 4 years of my mayorship in years 21 through 25.
Let's unpack a few issues that have been on a lot of our listeners' minds and have been on my mind. I saw that the city of the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C., recently spent, I think it was $750,000, $750,000 to repaint their Black Lives Matter mural that runs adjacent to the White House. And we've got one downtown right next to Lake Eola on Rosalind. What is the strategy there for that mural? And is it something that eventually is just going to fade away, or is it going to be repainted? Is there an exit strategy? Is there a point at which, because you're kind of stuck. If you paint over it, then you're sending a political message. If you don't paint over it and don't repaint it, you're also sending a political message, it would seem.
So I view our painting the Black Lives Matter mural on Roslyn as symbolic of our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. So it is within the framework. We repave our roads all the time, and it just so happens that Roslyn and Orange and Magnolia are all in the time frame that are coming up in the next few months, which also we would like to get that done before we have the Olympic marathon trial here, because that is the route that they would be taking. So having brand new, nice asphalt down would reflect well, I think, on the city and everybody that views it. However, we also, as part of that, are going to be painting murals at 5 or 6 of the intersections that would encompass that area. 4 of them are on Orange, and 1 of them is at Roslyn and Washington, and then 3 others on Orange. They won't be Black Lives Matter murals, but they will embrace our concept of embracing diversity and inclusion. There's also going to be painting of the crosswalks. And then as part of our DTO 2.0 plan to make the city a safer place to walk and bike, on a lot of the intersections, there'll be bump outs of the corners so that it will slow people down as they turn those corners, and we're going to make those decorative as well. And then we're going to improve the bike lane that's on Roslyn. So the Black Lives Matter mural will be paved over, but we think some of the other things we do highlight the aspect of diversity and inclusion.
Now, when it comes to downtown, as you know, I lived in downtown for several years. I only recently moved out of downtown to West Orange County just to be closer to my kids. And we'll probably move back to downtown. I'm very fond of living in downtown, and I never felt unsafe, even at night or on weekends or whatever. I always felt perfectly safe in downtown Orlando. But the landscape there has changed quite a bit because of and during the pandemic. I remember walking down the middle of Orange Avenue in the middle of a weekday, and there was no traffic, no cars, when everybody was stuck at home and nobody was out. We were all social distancing and all the offices were closed. How has downtown recovered when it comes to vacancy rates and the occupancy of those downtown office buildings, some of which I see are being converted to residences?
So we are just like every major downtown in America, probably I could say around the world as well, that COVID has changed the equation for your downtown. And we think we're ahead of the curve on a lot of people because we have recognized that what downtowns were in terms of 100% business district is not what they're going to be in the future. To your point, you loving to live downtown, we are thinking now of downtown more as a neighborhood and a place to attract people. Specifically, if we're talking about the downtown workers, those who could work remotely or work in the office, we want to make sure that downtown is a place that they'd rather come to work and be in the downtown than stay at home all the time. So creating amenities that appeal to the workers that come downtown. Creating amenities that appeal to people that want to live downtown, but then also attracting every age, every type of individual to our downtown with all types of surprise things. So did you come downtown for the Christmas decorations?
Oh, it's beautiful. So beautiful at Lake Eola.
So things of that nature where people are attracted to come and recreate in our downtown. So we at least totally recognize we're never going back to pre-pandemic and have to change the way we're doing things and think of it more as a neighborhood and the place that people want to come and recreate.
Part one of my conversation with Orlando's mayor, Buddy Dyer. Now, coming up tomorrow at this time, we'll have part two, in which I ask him about the homeless problem in downtown and the vision for the park that has long been planned for underneath I-4 between Church Street and Washington in downtown. We'll get answers from Mayor Dyer about that tomorrow. Our chief sports correspondent here on the Joe Kelley Show, Greg Rhodes, you did a little bit of research to look at the dates. As Mayor Dyer said that the Black Lives Matter mural is going to be not painted over, but they're going to repave that street because we have the Olympic marathon trials in Orlando, Florida, which in and of itself, totally cool.
Right. Yeah, no, that's one of those really cool things about living in a metro-like area like Orlando. We just recently had all these bowl games. Now we're going to be hosting the U.S. Olympic team trials. That's going to take place on February 3rd. So that's a Saturday. They're going to be running through downtown. And the finish line for said trials is going to be directly on Roslyn, right where that current mural is. So I can see kind of what you're talking about there with a little bit of a political statement, paving over that just before you're about to have some pretty big national attention on that area.
Yep, but I think that makes perfect sense because anybody who's driven through downtown knows that those aren't the smoothest streets there. And if you've got marathon runners that are running at a remarkably fast pace, the last thing we want is for one of them to trip and fall and break a leg or break an ankle or something and blame Orlando's streets for their problem. Coming up next, the stories that you missed while you were at work today. Meanwhile, we're watching the countdown clock on a SpaceX launch. They're at T-minus 44 minutes right now. That launch expected to take place at 6:04 p.m. You'll hear that live here on WDBO. Also coming up, Florida's Surgeon General, our Surgeon General, is calling for a halt to the COVID-19 vaccine in the state of Florida. He doesn't want anybody getting vaccinated for COVID-19 with the mRNA vaccine. I will unpack that for you coming up. Stay with us.
Now, from the Bogan Munz and Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz and Munz.
Pretty heavy delays right now, I-4 westbound as you make your way into downtown. It starts just around Fairbanks and continues on to the 408 eastbound. Then more delays from Sand Lake to 535 and from 192 into Champions Gate. I-4 eastbound delays into Champions Gate. That's because of an earlier crash. It has now been cleared. The left lane was blocked for about an hour. They've now opened up that lane, but you still see all that residual slowing backed up into Polk County. More delays past the Disney exits. And we have a crash 429 northbound before the Turnpike. This report sponsored by Positive Coaching Alliance. Questions about youth or high school sports? Positive Coaching Alliance can help. PCA, a national nonprofit organization, develops better athletes and better people through youth and high school sports. Info at positivecoach.org. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Fidelity is marking down the value of X shares by over 70% since Elon Musk's takeover. The investment firm decreased its valuation of X by more than 10% just in November, according to a recent filing. Several state capitals have received bomb threats today. State capitals in Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, and others were forced to evacuate today, although none of the threats were found to be credible at the time. Many of the buildings have reopened following sweeps for explosives. Republican lawmakers are at the southern border in Texas today. House Speaker Mike Johnson is leading a group of about 60 to Eagle Pass. The trip comes after there have been stepped-up efforts from House Republicans to impeach Homeland Security Secretary Alejandro Mayorkas. Hi, Jude. I did have a wonderful break. Thank you. Is it clear out there, Frank? I haven't looked outside in a very long time. Are we no clouds? I know we were cloudy this afternoon a little bit. Clouds all over. Oh, well, we won't be able to see it then, huh? Boo.
Did y'all see me jump? Josh just scared the daylights out of me, sneaking up on me. That Navy SEAL training, I guess, kicked in.
Hey, Joe, I enjoyed your first part of the Buddy Dyer. I'm looking forward to the others. Not a big Buddy Dyer fan, but I do appreciate what he said and how he's going to handle the whole Black Lives Matter thing. I think he's on the right track there.
Yeah, I think so as well. I'm reminded of, and I don't know if you guys remember this at all, but some years ago, there was this campaign, and I think it was sponsored by a church somewhere or a big church group or a men's group or something. But there used to be these series of bumper stickers you'd see on cars. Paul Cross, maybe you remember this, but there used to be these bumper stickers that would say, "I love my wife." And it would be on people's cars. And every time I saw one of those, this is, of course, way back when I was single. But I remember seeing those bumper stickers on cars thinking, dude, you're never, ever going to be able to take that bumper sticker off of your car because
do you remember
your wife is going to be like, what do you mean?
Right. You remember it was I and then it was heart.
Right.
It was the heart. I heart my wife.
Yeah.
Well, then people started coming up with things and the pet clinic started coming up with the spades. I spade my dog.
All right.
And then, oh gosh, I club my children.
Yeah.
It's the stupid
It got terrible from there. But
you
can
you
see
couldn't
how
take that off your car, Joe.
how removing a Black Lives Matter mural, could some people could be troubled by that. Some people could be elated by that, but some people certainly could be troubled by that. And I think the city has come up with a proper solution for how to move forward with regards to that Black Lives Matter mural.
Stepping out of the office elevator and into today's top stories. Here's what you missed while you were at work.
All right, you heard Laurel mention this just a moment ago. House Republicans formally begin impeachment proceedings against the Secretary of Homeland Security, Alejandro Mayorkas. More than 100 people are killed in 2 explosions in Iran at the Iranian cemetery where the spy master Qasem Soleimani is buried. There was an anniversary memorial there at his gravesite, and a couple of explosions went off. Nobody is taking credit for the explosions. It's not hard to imagine that Israel might have had something to do with that, but that is pure speculation. Indoor mask requirements have been reinstated at all New York City public hospitals amid a rise in respiratory viruses, including COVID-19 and the flu. Russia and Ukraine exchange hundreds of prisoners of war in a deal brokered by the United Arab Emirates. An imam is dead after being shot outside a mosque in Newark, New Jersey. Happened early this morning. And hundreds of court documents naming associates of the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein are still set to be made public today. A judge reaffirming that those documents are going to be made public today. I will still say I'll believe it when I see it, as there are lots of powerful people who are set to be named in those documents. And powerful people have a way of skirting justice and getting away with things. And I wouldn't be remotely surprised if somehow they got away with this as well. And lastly, just a short time ago, in fact, if you subscribe to our news push alerts in the WDBO app, you just got the alert on this, that the Trump campaign has officially asked the Supreme Court to weigh in on the Colorado ballot controversy, as Colorado is trying to take Donald Trump off the primary ballot there. They have to decide this case by Friday this week. By the day after tomorrow, it has to be decided. I will explain why it has to be decided by Friday. Coming up next. Stay with us here on the Joe Kelley Show.
This is WDBO.
WDBO.
Good afternoon, 5:30 here at WDBO. Our top story, Israel is on high alert a day after a precision attack killed a top Hamas official in Beirut.
White House National Security spokesman John Kirby saying the U.S. thinks Israel can eliminate Hamas's ability to stage attacks inside Gaza, but that the Israeli military still has much work to do.
Hamas still has a significant force posture inside Gaza.
Admiral Kirby saying the U.S. has no indication Israel was responsible for that attack that killed a Hamas leader inside Lebanon. Andy Field, ABC News, Washington.
Well, there's another sign the job market is cooling.
The number of job openings in November slipped to the lowest level in more than 2.5 years. It's an indication that higher interest rates are having an impact on hiring. The number of job listings declined to 8.8 million from a revised reading of 8.9 million in October. Job openings rose to a record of 12 million in 2022. The Federal Reserve is hoping a cooling job market will moderate wage increases and make it easier to control inflation. Fewer people were quitting jobs in November, 3.5 million, the least in more than 2.5 years. Ginny Cosola, Fox News.
Well, WDBO is turning 100 and we're giving away lots of cash. The payroll payout is starting back up Monday at 8 a.m. Download our app now so you're ready to win $1,000 5 times a day. Get paid just for listening to WDBO. It's 5:32.
So the last full-time mayor, according to this list I found before Buddy Dyer, was Glenda Evans Hood. She was mayor up until from 92 until 2003, and she resigned to take office as Secretary of State. So there you go. That was answering Karen's question from before. Orlando's had quite the list of mayors that just are mayor for a long time, too. So Buddy Dyer's the longest, but so Glenda Evans Hood was there for 11 years. Before that, it was Bill Frederick, who was there for 11 years. Carl Langford from 67 to 81. So it doesn't take too long to get back to Bob Carr, 56 to 67, because of how many they just are mayor for a while.
Orlando gets comfy and is like, let's just keep doing this.
That's fine. Just keep it rolling.
I guess so.
Greg, do we know how much Buddy Dyer makes as mayor? And does it incrementally get more?
That's a fun question. I don't know.
It's got to be public knowledge.
You're absolutely correct. It is. Let's see if we can find it.
I don't know if it's a flat fee or if he gets raised every time he gets reelected, or I don't know.
According to, let's see. Well, that's for Jerry Demings. Jerry Demings makes a good amount too there. According to that, I think this says $227,812.
I was going to guess about 200. Yeah.
See. It's like 200,000 in that range, but I don't know how old this story is.
That's for Buddy?
Yeah. This is coming out of like a New Smyrna Beach posting.
But he's not living like in a one-bedroom or studio apartment.
Choose Bogan Muns and Muns.
Still have that crash I-4 westbound before 436. They have the exit ramp right lane closed, but as I look closely, it's not really causing too many issues through that area. We do have some slowing I-4 westbound through Lake Mary, but by the time it gets to Altamont Springs, that off-ramp is really not causing any more delays. We have some more brake lights, though, from Fairbanks on to the 408 eastbound. It continues to about Crystal Lake. More delays I-4 westbound from Sand Lake to 535, and then from 192 into Champions Gate. Still have that crash 429 northbound before the Turnpike. This report sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote at progressive.com. That's progressive.com. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
This is WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk. Connected to our community. Talk local issues and events with Joe Kelley. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let Joe know what interests you. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
We're following breaking news. SpaceX just confirmed that they are on track for a 6:04 p.m. launch tonight. It'll be for the first launch of the new year here from the Space Coast. There was a launch last night out on the West Coast at Vandenberg Space Force Station, but this will be the first launch of the new year here at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It is going to be a Swedish-U.S. satellite, Swedish-U.S. company called Ovzon, and it's going to increase mobile broadband connectivity in underserved regions. There's a lot of satellites that purport to do precisely that. So that launch is coming up at 6:04 p.m. You'll be able to hear that live here on WDBO. I say live. You'll probably not hear it live. I always have to caution people that if you're going to wait until you hear the countdown on WDBO before you step outside to look, you'll probably miss it because depending on what apparatus you're listening through, there are varying stages of delays from actual live radio. Even on the FM, on the AM, on the streams, it can be delayed as much as 90 seconds. So just know that that when it comes to live, make sure you step outside before we get to the 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown. Cool. All right. Beginning Monday, you'll have a chance to win $1,000 5 times a day in the WDBO payroll payout. I'm very excited about that as we celebrate our 100th anniversary as a radio station. WDBO got started 100 years ago in 1924. Which is just insane that we've been around that long. We don't look a day over 99. Can I tell that joke all year long, by the way? Will I be able to tell that joke all year? I hope so. So we have that. Now, here is additional breaking news. The Trump campaign has now joined the Colorado Republican Party in asking the United States Supreme Court to weigh in on the Donald Trump ballot controversy in Colorado. You'll recall that the Colorado Supreme Court justices, so the state justices in Colorado, determined that Donald Trump was in violation of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, which applies to whether or not Donald Trump took part in an insurrection on January 6th. Even though Donald Trump has not been convicted of anything, and certainly not even accused in a court of law of insurrection. The section was put in place right after the Civil War. It was meant to keep former Confederates from gaining power, but the Colorado State Supreme Court is using it to try to, for political reasons, to try to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. Look, they're afraid, just like Maine is. They're afraid that they can't beat Donald Trump at the ballot box. So instead, they're going to try to beat him in the courtroom, and they're going to try to prevent him from being on the ballot in the first place. Now, here's the deal: the U.S. Supreme Court regularly scheduled conference day on Friday this week. Now, the Supreme Court does not have to decide on this. The Supreme Court doesn't even have to take up the case. The U.S. Supreme Court could decide to ignore this. The Supreme Court could say that there is no federal issue here to look at. We're gonna pass on this. Or the Supreme Court could take it up and say, we won't have a decision for another 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, whatever the case may be. Or the Supreme Court could take it up and straight away say, nope, the Colorado Supreme Court is wrong, put Donald Trump back on the ballot. Or the U.S. Supreme Court could take it up, look at it and say, the Colorado Supreme Court is right. Donald Trump tried to commit or committed insurrection and should not be on the ballot. Those are all the options. So there's a lot of wiggle room here in what could happen, but it has to happen on Friday. And I'll tell you why. Because Colorado prints their ballots on Friday. So whether or not Donald Trump's name is on the ballot, Colorado needs an answer by Friday. And so if the U.S. Supreme Court twiddles their thumbs and says, well, we're going to study this over for the next couple of weeks and we'll have a decision, in a few weeks, then the Colorado state officials will have to decide whether or not to put Donald Trump on a ballot. If look, the Supreme Court, this court has not ruled the way that a lot of people predicted that they would rule on a lot of issues. I don't think this is an easy one to predict what the court is going to do. And I don't like talking about violence. I don't like talking about political violence. I certainly don't like to be the guy bringing it up. But if the Supreme Court takes this up on Friday and says, you know what? The Colorado State Supreme Court is on to something. Donald Trump did try to commit an insurrection, and Donald Trump should not be on the ballot. That will give the green light to Maine to do the same thing, and that will give the green light to every other blue state to do the same thing to Donald Trump, and it will be over for Donald Trump. For all of the tens of millions of Americans who bleed MAGA red, white, and blue, it could all come crashing down this Friday. I don't know that I would make a lot of plans for Friday. I think a lot of people could be tripping on Friday if this does not go Donald Trump's way. What do you think? 844-580-WDBO. It's 844-580-9326. You can use the open mic and the WDBO app. Coming up, I still want to unpack this issue with the Florida Surgeon General, our Surgeon General, calling for a halt to the COVID-19 vaccine usage in the state of Florida. He is at odds with the FDA. We're going to break it all down for you coming up straight ahead, plus your comments on what could possibly happen this Friday. That's on the way next.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, from the Bogan Munz & Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz & Munz.
Well, we've got lots of brake lights right now into Champions Gate out of Polk County from 557 I-4 eastbound is really jammed up all the way to US 27. They had an earlier wreck there, and it never fully recovered, so it's still staying that way for, an hour and a half? And then down by the Disney exits, you've got more delays on the I-4 eastbound side. Downtown, you're going to tap the brakes eastbound, but westbound, you're going to be on the brakes for a while from Fairbanks onto the 408 eastbound. This report sponsored by Mecum Auctions. Experience Mecum Kissimmee 2024 at Osceola Heritage Park with more than 4,000 collector cars at auction now through Sunday, January 15th. Your Mecum experience begins at mecum.com. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Now.
Fidelity is marking down the value of X shares by over 70% since Elon Musk's takeover. The investment firm decreased its valuation of X by more than 10% just in November, according to a recent filing. Several state capitals have received bomb threats today. State capitals in Georgia, Kentucky, Michigan, Mississippi, and others were forced to evacuate today, although none of the threats were found to be credible at the time. Many of the buildings have reopened following sweeps for explosives. The Northeast and Mid-Atlantic regions may see their first big winter storm in 2 years. After a record warm December, January will be a different story with a storm system set to hit the east through the first 2 weeks of the new year. This includes Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City. Sorry, I had it, and then it moved, and then I couldn't find it, and then just panic.
So, Terry, that's a great question. I think it's something that we have addressed on the show, but actually, we just had a caller that had the same question. And with Colorado's laws, the way that they have set up for their ballots, you can do a write-in, but you have to be a qualified candidate. So there's a difference between being a qualified candidate and being on the ballot, according to their state laws. But also, if you've been specifically removed from the ballot, your write-in vote will not count for that candidate, because they are no longer a valid candidate to use for a write-in. So if that makes sense. Like in Colorado, a vote for Mickey Mouse would not count because they are not a valid candidate. WDBO.
That's true, Karen. Both literally and in our brains. Oh, really, Karen? That's funny. I'm surprised that people go through all the trouble of voting. Like, they stand in line, they have the person find their name, they have their ID, just to walk in there and put Mickey Mouse. That's my surprise. That's like you're taking like an hour out of your day just to go. But, to each their own.
And then Terry, I saw that you asked about Pat Clark a little bit ago too. So yeah, he was kind of forced out over at Wesh, unfortunately. He was pretty good at what he did though. I liked Pat Clark a lot. But nowadays, he does, it's called Goop Dogs. So you'll see him at a couple of like the Orlando events with his food truck, and they're like hot dogs, but they have like a cheese, and then they're also wrapped up and steamed. So that way they're a little bit goopy. So they're pretty good. And he has a lot of great stories.
I feel like they should have marketed that better. That doesn't sound like Goop Dog doesn't sound appetizing the way you did, but
Entertaining.
Man, that guy is a lot taller than he sounds on the radio.
And engaging.
When we hear you on the radio, it's a good thing.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
All right, so both the Colorado GOP party and the Trump campaign have asked the Supreme Court to decide by Friday whether or not Trump can appear on the ballot in Colorado.
Joe, you're forgetting something. If they do, so his name can't be on the ballot, all everybody has to do is write him in.
Yeah, that won't work. That will not work. There are only some states allow candidates on ballots. There are, hang on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 states that don't allow it, including Nevada. Nevada is one of those must-win states. And then the majority of states that do allow it allow only registered candidates. So there are rules. Just because you write in a candidate does not mean that your vote will count. I take it back. There are 9 states because I didn't count Hawaii. Hawaii, Arkansas, Hawaii, Louisiana, Mississippi, Nevada, New Mexico, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and South Dakota do not allow write-in candidates. And Donald Trump or any other candidate will need some or all of those states to be able to win.
Joe, we have to read the language of that 14th Amendment. It can't say attempt or try to or supposed a. It has to be convicted of insurrection to the letter. That's the Supreme Court's deal. They don't go by whimsical roundabouts. They're a letter kind of court.
Right. And the letter of the 14th Amendment, Section 3, reads, shall have engaged in insurrection. It doesn't say shall have been convicted of, shall have been accused of. It's shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same. So by that definition, it's hard to say what the Supreme Court is going to do.
Hey, Joe, so I'm going to take a wild guess and assume that you are going to talk about this. So with everything that's going on with, what is it? I think Maine and Colorado were the 2 states that were taking Trump off the ballot. And I believe I heard DeSantis talk about how Biden should potentially be taken off because of X, Y, and Z. So why hasn't he done that yet?
Yeah, so Ron DeSantis, we talked about this last night. Ron DeSantis said that he was going to take or consider taking Joe Biden off of the ballot because he has let in 8 million illegal aliens into the United States during his term in office. But Ron DeSantis hasn't done that yet. And I would argue that it's not appropriate for Ron DeSantis to do that, because I don't think that there is a clause in, just like the insurrection clause is too vague, in my opinion, in my non-lawyerly opinion. It is too vague to keep Donald Trump off the ballot. There's nothing that should keep Joe Biden off the ballot. And frankly, don't you want Joe Biden on the ballot? Wouldn't you rather have Joe Biden on the ballot? I would think that we would. I would think that's the guy we desperately want on the ballot. I think he'll be the most readily beatable on the ballot. Meantime, we're watching out at the Space Coast. Let's take a listen here.
From the risk of thermal shock and damage
They're T-minus 8.5 minutes right now to launch. We do have some clouds. If you're in the Orlando area, this may be tough to see. But it is quite quiet out there on Cape Canaveral Space Force Station right now. This mission is going to send the Ovzon 3 satellite to a geostationary orbit. This is marking the first privately funded Swedish satellite.
T-minus 8 minutes and counting. Do have word from SpaceX that they are currently tracking no issues on the Falcon 9 or the payload. That is good news as they are getting ready to launch.
And we will, of course, take that launch live when it happens in now 7 minutes and 45 seconds. 8 minutes after launch, or T plus 8 minutes, is when the first stage booster will land back at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station LZ1. Landing Zone 1 is where that is going to land, and we will stay with that broadcast until that booster lands back. And this is going to be one of those launches. We're in kind of that twilight hour where we're right at sunset here. And because of the high altitude, when that rocket goes up really, really high, I saw somebody in our chat group describe it as the night sky jellyfish. It's going to look a bit like a jellyfish when it gets up in the night sky, because it's going to be high enough that it's going to be illuminated by the sun still. Even though we're here pretty much in the darkness at this point here on ground level, but at altitude of where this rocket is going, it should be that cool jellyfish. I think it was Frank in our chat group who said that, and that's an apt description and an apt observation that, yeah, we should have that really cool looking jellyfish if you can see it. We do have some cloud cover, so we'll keep an eye on the cloud cover for you as well. We'll take more of your comments on the Donald Trump ballot controversy and what you think the Supreme Court might do and what you think might happen on Friday if it doesn't go MAGA's way. You can join the discussion at 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app. Don't forget to look for the Joe Kelley Show podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe to that podcast. You know what? Give it a rating, too, if you don't mind. I'm not telling you what kind of rating to give it. Just give it some sort of rating. We appreciate that. As always, it helps with the ranking of the podcast.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, from the Bogan Munz & Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz & Munz.
We got a vehicle fire now on the 408 westbound exit ramp to Orange Blossom Trail. Part of that ramp is blocked. Another crash, 1792 southbound at Wildmere Avenue. They have 2 lanes closed there. And then still looking at delays into downtown, but not as bad as it was. Now it's just from Parr onto the Colonial exit. Didn't get what you wanted for Christmas? Well, get to Refresh Computers. Dell computers start at just $129. RefreshComputers.net and the Superstore in Longwood. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
WDBO Orlando, WOEX FM HD2 Orlando, W297BV Orlando. Powered by Talon Wealth Management. Visit guardingyournestegg.com. Listen everywhere with the WDBO app, a Cox Media Group station.
Good evening, 6:01 here at WDBO. Our top story, Iran says twin bomb blasts killed more than 100 people today. No immediate claims of responsibility for the attack at an event marking the anniversary of the death of a top Iranian general killed in a U.S. airstrike in 2020.
The White House says it has no indication at this time that Israel was involved in any way in the bomb attacks in Iran Wednesday that left nearly 100 dead. National Security Spokesman John Kirby.
Our hearts go out to all the innocent victims and their family members who are obviously their lives are going to be forever changed by this. But we don't have any more detail in terms of how it happened or who might be responsible for it.
Kirby said the U.S. had no indications there would be violence surrounding the anniversary of the death of a top Iranian general killed in a U.S. drone strike 4 years ago. Karen Travers, ABC News, the White House.
WDBO is turning 100 and we're giving away lots of cash. The payroll payout is starting back up Monday at 8 a.m. Download our app now so you're ready to win $1,000 5 times a day. Get paid just for listening to WDBO. It's 6:02.
Hey, Laurel. Hi. I haven't even said hello to you. I hope your Christmas and your New Year's and everything was great. I just haven't even said hi.
Hi, thank you. I hope yours is too, or yours was too, I should say.
Are you buddies with the Garden Rebel?
Oh, yes, very much so.
I need to get him. You need to get me his information. I need to have him look at my yard. I'd really love to.
Yeah, definitely I can do that.
Business to people who support WDBO as well. If I tell him you sent me, will he charge me double or will he give me a break?
Hopefully the latter. Hopefully.
Breaking news alert.
Breaking news alert.
From WDBO 107.3 FM and AM 580, Orlando's news and talk.
I'm Joe Kelley in the WDBO 24-hour news center. We go now live to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, where we have 20 seconds left in the countdown for a rocket that is going to put a joint Swiss-American satellite into geosynchronous orbit. We tune in now.
And T-minus 10. Let's watch this payload go to space.
Heck yeah.
Keep your eyes on the base of the vehicle.
Sound suppression is on.
Yep. There's ignition. And liftoff of Falcon 9 carrying Ovzon 3 for Ovzon AB. Headed to geostationary transfer orbit. Let's listen in.
Breaking through the cloud barrier now. Again, if you're out on the Space Coast, keep in mind that this is going to land the first stage booster at landing zone 1, which is back on land, not on a barge out in the Atlantic this time. It's going to land back out on land. So you'll hear a sonic boom as that first stage booster comes back down. Which should be exactly 8 minutes after the launch, which will be 7 minutes from right now.
Brad Bernstein doing a great job of tracking it so far this evening. As is Pete. Chuck. At T plus 1 minute 30 seconds into flight. Less than a minute left in the burn of the first stage. Those Merlin engines producing 1.7 million pounds of thrust.
If you're getting
From
some good
SpaceX's
pictures,
tracking camera here.
you can text us pictures. If you're getting some good pictures of this, just text us to 844-580-WDBO.
Bit of action here. MECO is coming up at T plus 2 minutes and 13 seconds. It'll be followed 3 seconds later by first and second stage separation.
Everybody's looking for the jellyfish right now.
Coming up on MECO here right now. Stage separation next. We should see second stage engine start.
All right, there goes the first stage booster. It is now separated.
A little hard to track through the clouds here. About 2.5 minutes into flight. You see a stage separation on the SpaceX feed onboard cameras there.
So the first stage booster is now on its way back to Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. It will land there in about 4.5 minutes.
Back burn now underway. First stage booster performing its flip maneuver, coming up on 3 minutes into flight.
5 minutes until it lands.
Is going to be bearing separation coming up in just a couple of seconds here. You can see a little bit of the shadow of the booster on its own plume as it's performing that burn right now.
I doubt you can hear it on the radio, but I can hear the crickets chirping out there at the launch pad. I doubt it's coming through our speakers.
Burn will last 1 minute. It's wrapping up on the SpaceX feed in just a few seconds here.
Now, you recall that the last time they launched from Cape Canaveral, the booster landed successfully on a barge out in the Atlantic, but it hit rough seas on the way back to Port Canaveral, and it toppled the first stage booster, destroying it.
You see the grid fins deploying there. Coming up next, the next milestone is at T plus 6 minutes, 10 seconds for the first stage entry burn.
If you're watching out on the Space Coast, this will come back into view pretty soon here, if it hasn't already. I am sitting in a darkened studio.
Again, the first stage booster is coming back to a landing at landing zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station.
I know this is just for the chat room. Can you guys hear me in the chat room?
We're about 3 minutes away from the landing of the first stage booster. If you're just joining us here on WDBO, this is SpaceX's first launch of 2024 from Cape Canaveral. They actually had a launch last night in Vandenberg in Southern California. This is their first here in Central Florida for the year.
And we're starting to get some views of the booster, T plus 5 minutes, 16 seconds. See those ground-based views of the booster on the right-hand side of the screen. Still onboard camera views on the left-hand side.
I'm not speaking to on the air, but I'm speaking in
10
the chat
seconds.
room.
That is when the first stage entry burn
I
will
had a
begin.
chance to just get my 87-year-old mother-in-law, get her on a walker and get her to the backyard so she can see part of that rock.
Yeah, if you're out at Cape Canaveral right now, you should be seeing the light of the first stage booster just barely coming into view.
Coming up on
throw her back in the house.
Into the flight here.
2 minutes away from the landing of the first stage booster.
Over 10 seconds away from the first stage entry burn beginning.
You will certainly see the booster when it has the first stage entry burn. That'll light up quite brightly as it is doing right now.
Entry burn just starting in real time on the SpaceX feed in just a few seconds here.
So if you didn't see it before, you should certainly see the first stage booster now.
Burn here on our tracking camera.
It slows the booster down considerably.
Some good shots here from Adam. Great shots from Pete, as well as the booster entry burn.
Way to go, Adam and
on
Pete.
now. Wrapping up there.
I am also in Volusia County, so it was kind of cloud coverage, but I saw it ducking in and out.
At T plus 6 minutes, 47 seconds and counting into flight.
Never
Kudos to our
get
tracking
bored.
team. It's been a little
Just
tricky
the
tonight with all the clouds.
All right, we're 1 minute away from the landing of the first
Coming up
stage
on
booster.
7 minutes to flight. The next milestone is the landing burn starting at T plus 7 minutes, 28 seconds.
We're about 45 seconds away from the booster landing.
Here from SpaceX that both parts of the vehicle are on a nominal trajectories. That's good to hear. Landing burn set to begin in just a moment.
Should hear that sonic boom. And that booster.
We'll see the landing burn from our tracker here. This view from Pete Carson says the booster is making its way back down to land.
Landing in the dark. It doesn't need lights to land.
Some great views from our fellows working this tracker here. SpaceX making its way back down to landing zone 1 to complete its first Florida-based landing here of the year.
The booster has now successfully landed at 8 minutes and 8 seconds into flight. That's off by 8 seconds. Let it be known that they were off by 8 seconds. There was your sonic boom just now. Did you hear that?
Nice sonic boom.
Yep.
And touchdown.
Yeah, that was a great flight, successful flight. Congratulations to SpaceX on their first flight of the new year. Hopefully the first of many flights ahead. And lots of business for Central Florida businesses, both small and large, both in the space industry and outside of the space industry. It is very exciting. I will never, ever, ever grow tired of seeing those launches from the Space Coast, and I hope you don't grow tired of them as well. My name is Joe Kelley. You're listening to the Joe Kelley Show. We will continue coming up.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, from the Bogan Munz and Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz and Munz.
Well, we got a crash I-4 eastbound before John Young Parkway. Got it on the cameras here, and we have 2 right lanes closed. This is jamming things up now, starting from Kirkman as you make your way toward downtown. Vehicle fire 408 westbound on the exit ramp to Orange Blossom Trail. That also has some brake lights there approaching downtown. More brake lights. This is I-4 westbound into downtown from Parr onto the 408. And then a crash 1792 southbound at Wildermere Avenue, nowhere near downtown, but you got 2 right lanes blocked there. This report sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Looking for a career path with flexibility and great pay and benefits? Go to progressive.com/careers and apply online today. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
Now, the 3 big things you need to know.
Gas prices are falling, and for the first week of the new year, AAA reports today's national average price for regular is $3.09 a gallon. That's 1 cent lower than Tuesday's average, 3 cents lower than a week ago, and 15 cents lower than a month ago.
Two.
President Biden is ramping up his 2024 re-election campaign. The president will deliver a speech in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Saturday to mark 3 years since a pro-Trump crowd stormed the U.S. Capitol. Biden is expected to cast Republican frontrunner Donald Trump as an existential threat to democracy.
One.
Harvard University President Claudine Gay resigns. She announced her decision Tuesday in a message to the Harvard community. This follows allegations of plagiarism and a campus controversy over anti-Semitism. Gay's tenure is now the shortest in the school's history after she became Harvard's first Black president in July. Marie, that's funny. Well, my community is mourning because people speed up and down my road constantly. We've asked multiple times for Lake County to put speed bumps in our road, and they say they won't because it's a connector road, which I think is nonsense because I've been on plenty of roads. There's one going into Winter Garden that's definitely a connector road and has speed bumps on it. Anyways, and they fly down it. And yesterday, apparently a black SUV flew down one of our roads, hit and killed a sandhill crane, and just kept going. They didn't even stop. They didn't slow. They just hit it and kept going. And now they've been mated for 3 years, the birds. They've been mates for 3.5 years. Another neighbor was saying, I've seen them raise their chicks together. And now the male is walking around lonely. And so people are very upset because we see those cranes every day, and some ignorant, selfish jerk speeding down a road that goes in front of an elementary school killed one of the birds. And so we're all upset and angry. It just stinks because people are selfish and won't slow down. And it's only going to get worse when they open this road. They're going to open it to connect through Disney. And it's only going to make everybody worse because from what we hear, Disney workers are super excited for this road to open into Lake County, which means they're all going to be going through this road, past our houses, past our sandhill cranes. And while many of them are nice people, I would bet a majority of them speed. And so anyways, that's the drama in my corner of the world.
Well, that sucks. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, right. Not Schofield, Marie. I take Schofield every day, actually, and people, yes, are already speeding on Schofield. Sawgrass Bay. Sawgrass Bay is going to connect to Avalon. Apparently, they're putting stop signs at our intersections, but people are already just flying through that area. Honestly, my husband and I want to move because I don't want to have to battle Disney traffic to get to my own house every night. So we don't know what we're going to do yet, but we're not looking forward to it. Yeah, Karen, they are reckless. And again, it's not like it was Highway 27. It wasn't a highway. It's a road surrounded by homes and an elementary school. Like, what are you doing flying down that road? People are selfish and they don't care. But right up the street between Schofield and Sawgrass, Marie, now you brought that up, there was, I mentioned when I was on the air last, there was a motorcyclist that was hit and killed right in front of Showcase of Citrus. And we're learning more about him now. He was a 26-year-old out of Kissimmee. He was a veteran. He, his family are just mourning. And of course, again, somebody posted the story about it, and all the comments are callous, right? All the comments are so full of hate, and he was probably speeding, da-da-da-da-da. Well, I can tell you as a motorcycle rider and somebody who passes the intersection in which he died every day, that I would put money down that he was trying to cross 27, got into the median to turn around, and he hit gravel, lost his bike, and flew. So he wasn't being reckless. He lost his bike on gravel and was hit by 8 cars and killed. And people are just so callous in the comments. I'm just like, man, is this how we want to go into 2024, y'all? Ugh.
But Mike in the WDBO app. Now, the Joe Kelley Show on Orlando's news and talk. WDBO.
Well, y'all are going to have to give me a minute on this one. There was just an incident in a courtroom in Las Vegas, Nevada, where a female judge was sentencing a 3-time felon accused of attempted battery with substantial bodily harm when the bad guy said, "Oh, hell no," and he jumped up out of his seat and attacked the female judge. And I will tell you that I'll get the video posted here shortly. I can't play the audio for obvious reasons. There is too much foul language in the audio. But I will tell you that it is disturbing video. And this guy continues to wail on this female judge. And I will tell you, someone will be having a long talking to the bailiffs for failing to protect that judge in this sentencing. The guy's a 3-time convicted felon, and she was about to throw the book at him. And
she denied probation.
Yeah.
She denied his probation, and he went ballistic. He flew.
He leaped.
Flew over that judge's bench.
Yeah, her bench was high up. I mean, you've seen him in TV shows before, or maybe you've seen him in real life. But the bench is pretty high up, and this guy jumped over it like an Olympic athlete, and just started wailing on her. And it's brutal and it's ugly. And
well, she was about to deny probation, so it looked like she made the right choice, huh?
Yeah, I think she did. I think she did, and I hope she's okay. I hope she's able to recover from that. And as soon as I get a break here, I'll post that video up so you guys can see it for yourselves. All right, we got a comment about the launch.
Hey, so I'm listening to you guys cover the rocket launch right now.
Yeah.
I just don't understand, why would you schedule that on a cloudy night? I mean, come on, do better.
Right?
Think ahead.
I am so with you on that. That's infuriating. Why would we do that? That is absolutely terrible. Also, Friday is the day. Friday is the day that the U.S. Supreme Court has to decide, yay or nay. They don't have to decide. They don't have to decide at all. But Friday's the day that the Supreme Court could decide whether or not Donald Trump's name is going to appear on the Colorado ballot. Friday's an important day in Colorado because that's the day that they print the ballots. Can't wait till Saturday to print the ballots. They got to print them on Friday. And the Supreme Court has a regularly scheduled conference that day. And so both the Trump campaign and the Colorado GOP have asked the Supreme Court to take a look at it. And it's hard to say. It's really hard to say with this Supreme Court what exactly is going to happen with this ruling.
Hey, Joe, the one thing that people are not taking into consideration is Section 5 of Article 4, the 14th Amendment, where it states that Congress has the power to enforce Section 3. Not the courts, not individual attorney generals, Congress. Congress has to make this move. So I believe the Supreme Court will find this unconstitutional.
Well, you're only partly right there, because it reads, but Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. So Congress may, not must, Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house. Now, the Republicans barely have a minority in the House, and the Republicans are in the minority of the Senate. Donald Trump will get no relief from the U.S. Congress. So we're back to the Supreme Court has to decide, or not, what they're going to do with or without this case. If they're going to do something with this case, or if they're not going to do something with this case, that'll be up for them to decide. All right, our Surgeon General, Joseph Ladapo, is calling on healthcare providers in the state to stop the use of the COVID-19 mRNA vaccines, citing health risks labeled misinformation by federal officials. Yes, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration is at odds with our Florida State Surgeon General, Dr. Joseph Ladapo. Ladapo claims that the FDA has not shown evidence that coronavirus vaccines manufactured by Pfizer and Moderna have been assessed for nucleic acid contaminants that could cause cancer. Disputing claims by the FDA that such risk is implausible, Ladapo called for an immediate stoppage of the use of the approved mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. So I would think that this would be broadcast everywhere. I would think that this would be on every newscast everywhere, that our Surgeon General is saying to not take the COVID-19 vaccine. Now, I will tell you, not because I think he's a kook, but because I think he's brave, Joseph Ladapo. I think he's right. I think he is. I have made the full transition As Laurel would say, I've gone to the dark side on vaccines. I'm not anti-vax on all vaccines. I am anti-mRNA COVID-19 vaccines. As our Surgeon General is saying it's not safe, a new study raises serious concerns for the safety of the vaccinated population as new health issues have been linked to the COVID mRNA shots. Now, I'm told, Paul Cross, we need to do another traffic report here. So we're going to check updated traffic with Paul Cross, and then I'm going to explain to you why the mRNA vaccine is dangerous for you. That'll be coming up after Paul Cross traffic. That would be you, Paul.
Now,
I was waiting for the sounder.
WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident, choose Bogan Munz and Munz.
I didn't realize you needed an invitation.
I'm like Pavlov's dog.
Yes.
I wait for the bell to ring before I do anything. I got a crash I-4 eastbound before the Turnpike, another crash I-4 eastbound before John Young with 2 right lanes closed, and then a vehicle fire 408 westbound on the exit ramp to OBT. Didn't get what you wanted for Christmas? Get the Refresh Computers. Dell computers starting at just $129. RefreshComputers.net and the Superstore in Longwood. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross. Take it away, Joe.
That sponsorship of yours reminds me of a jingle from long time ago that I will just, in my mind, my stupid mind will start playing this jingle in June and July and whenever. But do you remember there used to be a commercial and a jingle that would say, can't believe I'm going to sing this on the radio. And I can't believe I still remember this jingle. Almost everything you wanted but didn't get for Christmas is on sale now at where? Anybody remember that jingle?
I don't remember that one.
Almost everything you wanted but didn't get for Christmas is on sale now at
Sears.
It is Sears.
There you go. See, I just figured it had to be a one syllable.
Yes, it was Sears. All right. Now back to the COVID mRNA vaccine. Research published in December 2023. Gosh, I remember December 2023 like it was 3 days ago. 3 days ago. In the renowned, peer-reviewed Nature journal. Laurel, you still subscribe to the journal Nature, don't you? You still get that.
I read every one, cover to cover.
Yep. So according to the world-renowned, peer-reviewed journal Nature, the mRNA injections trigger high rates of ribosomal frame shifting. Now, ribosomal frame shifting. Let me just, I'm going to stop right there because it's now going to get to a level that goes above my head. All right. Suffice to say, according to the journal Nature, and again, this is over my head. I am a simple Joe. I am not a complex Joe. I am a simple Joe. But it reads, off-target cellular immune responses occur in 25 to 30% of people who received the mRNA COVID shot. The news comes as the U.S. Food and Drug Administration and Australia's Therapeutic Goods Administration are still refusing to release the RNA stability data. You know what? Screw the FDA and screw their recommendations. As long as they're going to continue to hide data from the American people. Could not be more emphatic about that. Screw those guys. You cannot tell me, you could not convince me otherwise that the FDA is hiding things from us, that the U.S. government is hiding information from us about the mRNA vaccines. I have shared too many news stories with you guys about the dangers of the mRNA vaccine. You can join the discussion. 844-580-WDBO or use the open mic in the WDBO app.
This is WDBO.
WDBO.
107.3 FM and AM 580. Orlando's news and talk.
Good evening, 631 here at WDBO. Our top story, Israel won't say if it's behind the bombing that killed a top Hamas official in Lebanon, but U.S. officials are weighing in.
The U.S. saying it's still unclear who's responsible for killing the Hamas leader.
We have no indication at this time at all that Israel was involved in any way whatsoever.
White House National Security Spokesman John Kirby, the State Department's Matthew Miller on Hamas's Salah al-Aruri.
Al-Aruri was a brutal terrorist who was centrally responsible for the attacks of October 7th.
Israel and other nations are prepared for a retaliation. Andy Field, ABC News.
Well, starting this month, millions of workers will get a bump in their paychecks. That's because more than 20 states are boosting minimum wages, but some opponents believe these increases could do more harm than good. Here's Washington correspondent Kirsten Garris.
This comes as the federal minimum wage of $7.25 an hour hasn't increased since 2009. Fast food workers tell us these increases are long overdue. But critics argue this may hurt some small businesses that are still recovering from the pandemic and inflation. Some federal lawmakers want to increase the federal minimum wage to nearly $10 to then $17 an hour by 2028. In Washington, Kirsten Garris, WGBO 107.3 FM and AM 580.
WDBO is turning 100 and we're giving away lots of cash. The payroll payout is back starting Monday at 8 a.m. Download our app now so you're ready to win $1,000 5 times a day. Get paid just for listening to WDBO. It's 632.
Let's see. Well, Karen, according to Sears' website, there's actually one still in Florida. There's right here in Orlando over at the Florida Mall. So if you're still in possession of that Sears card, head on over to the Florida Mall. And again, that's according to Sears' website. I don't know how reliable that is. but that's the only one within 100 miles of us, according to their store lookup. Once they lost the exclusivity of having Craftsman, kind of really no use for a Sears anymore, in my opinion. That was the big thing that would keep me going to Sears, is because of just how high quality Craftsman stuff is. But now you can find it at Lowe's and Ace and all those kinds of places. So yeah, I think Kmart recently closed their final store. Kenmore, yep, that's another brand that was very strong for them.
Yeah, Laurel, send me this guy's info.
Okay, I will.
Orlando's news and talk. Talk and discussion on the latest breaking national news.
Crude oil prices continue to fall.
Local news.
You're not going to have Disney have its own government in Central Florida?
And stories that matter to you. Use the open mic in the WDBO app and let your voice be heard on the Joe Kelley Show.
Dang it, Joe. The last thing that I needed today was an earworm of the Sears jingle. Because when you left a blank, I knew it right away. So I'm kind of dating myself there. Same generation as you, I guess. Yeah. Happy New Year.
Well, I'm glad it wasn't just me. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, but that song sticks in my head. That jingle, that old Sears jingle sticks in my head, and it's year round, but especially around Christmas time. And I don't know why, but it's, almost everything you want to, sometimes we record things. In fact, we record stuff here at the radio station pretty much every day. We're recording one thing or another, right? And we do, a lot of us in radio will do vocal warm-up exercises, before we start talking. Because sometimes, frankly, I don't talk to anybody before I come to work, right? And then I come to work and I'm expected to start, using my voice. And it's like, well, I got to warm up a little bit. And 9 times out of 10, I will sing that silly jingle from, 1902 or whatever it was when that came out. Almost everything you wanted but didn't get for Christmas is on sale now at Sears.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it's all I remember.
Was that a regional ad or was it? I was growing up in Southern Cal. I don't remember that.
I don't remember anything about life at all except that jingle. Everything is a blur.
Okay.
Except that stupid Sears jingle that's stuck in my head. All right, if you want to see the video.
Well, now people are typing in these things. My baloney has a first name. Now people are typing in stuff to give us even more earworms.
Oh, boy. If you want to see this shocking video, a Las Vegas judge is attacked in court during the sentencing of what is clearly a violent 3-time felon. The district court judge, Mary Kay Holtis, attacked by a defendant during sentencing. According to a marshal of the court, the judge is okay, but one marshal has been hospitalized, we're now told. So I'm glad to know that the judge is okay. And if somebody's going to be injured, I'm glad it's a deputy and not the judge. Not that it makes me feel any better about anybody getting injured. But the video, man, if that isn't an argument for putting cages, I was going to say putting a protective cage around the judge. What they needed was handcuffs or a protective cage on the suspect, on the felon, the 3-time felon. I would play you the audio, but it's just a lot of cuss words and a lot of the sounds of punches. And that's pretty much it. You saw it, Paul.
Yeah, he also when he jumped over him and he sailed over there, it looked like he grabbed a handful of her hair too.
Yeah.
And when he went down, she went down, and the person next to her jumped up. And you see his face for a split second. I watched that video over and over again. You can tell when the guy's rushing up to the bench because the guy's face just all of a sudden makes that
yeah, his eyes,
and you can see it.
His
and then
eyes open
boom,
wide.
yeah.
Yeah, and there is going to be a racial component to this. There will likely be people coming to the defendant's aid saying, "Oh, this is about equity, and he shouldn't have been sentenced, and this, that, and the other, and it's the court's fault, it's society's fault that he attacked this white woman of privilege, this white judge." I'm not making it racist. I'm just saying someone will certainly make it racist. Incidentally, we are still watching to see if the Epstein list gets released today. We were told in no uncertain terms it was going to be released today. The
Well,
judge,
I just read something.
Yeah.
It said it was on hold until January 22nd now. Now that may be false. I haven't reported that because of the fact that I just read it, so I haven't checked it.
Yeah, there have been a lot of different reports out. In fact, I just saw one that says that they're out, that the list is out. Now, I will tell you that yesterday, I saw that the list was out, and I clicked on it, and I got a very good laugh out of it as I got rickrolled by clicking on the link yesterday. I haven't been rickrolled in a very, very, very long time, and I got quite the chuckle out of being rickrolled. And if you don't know what rickrolled is, I'm sorry that you don't know what rickrolled is. Suffice to say, it was funny. I enjoyed the heck out of it. All right. As you heard Laurel report, President Biden is going to make a speech on the 3rd anniversary of the January 6th riots at the U.S. Capitol. He's going to do this near Valley Forge, Pennsylvania. And he's going to make the argument, in his words, he's going to make the argument for why Donald Trump is a threat to our democracy, to our republic. Why he is an existential threat to our republic. He's going to the next day. He's going to make 2 days later. President Biden is going to visit the Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston, where 9 people were shot and killed in a June 2015 white supremacist attack. Of course, he is going to go to that church to make an argument against Donald Trump. Of course, he's going to make it about race. Of course, he is going to do that. And I will tell you that if any network gives President Biden free airtime for this, then shame on them, because this is not a presidential address for which any president should have prime time speaking time. This is clearly a campaign speech by Joe Biden and should be treated as such. News networks can air it for sure, but if the regular networks interrupt their regular programming to bring you a speech from Joe Biden on the evening of January 6th, you better believe that those networks are absolutely in the pocket of Joe Biden and the Democratic National Committee. Period. End of sentence. Full stop. Not necessarily in that order. Full stop, period, end of sentence. Capiche? Capiche, right? All right, 844-580-WDBO. You can use the open mic in the WDBO app. Let's see here. Coming up next, I don't typically share The View from The View. I don't watch The View because I've got a blood pressure issue and I don't need my blood pressure going up. So I don't watch The View. I do things that lower my blood pressure, not elevate my blood pressure. But somebody on The View actually made sense today. What? Yes, I know. Shocking as it is. So we'll have that for you coming up next. Nobody go nowhere.
The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO. Now, from the Bogan Munz and Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz and Munz.
Got a crash now on 436 westbound at Balmy Beach. 2 right lanes are closed there. Still dealing with that wreck on I-4 eastbound before the Turnpike, and then another before John Young, and a broken down vehicle on the 408 eastbound right before Bumby Avenue with the right lane blocked. This report sponsored by Progressive Insurance. Protect your home and auto. Save when you bundle. Get a quote at progressive.com. That's progressive.com. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Paul Cross.
The Japanese Coast Guard plane that collided with a passenger plane in a deadly Tokyo crash was not cleared for takeoff. That's according to an official transcript of air traffic control communications released today. Japan Airlines Flight 516 crashed into the Coast Guard aircraft that it landed after it landed on the runway yesterday, ending an eruption of fire. The U.S. is at a breaking point with record levels of illegal immigration. That's what House Speaker Mike Johnson told reporters today after touring the southern border in Eagle Pass, Texas. Johnson called it an unmitigated disaster of President Biden's doing and urged the president to take executive action to stop the flow of migrants. A winter storm is slated to bring snow, rain, and wind to the east this weekend. Forecasters aren't sure how much snow the system could bring, but they are keeping a close eye on areas near the busy I-95 corridor.
So did anybody get a chance to watch any of the bowl games that were out here in Orlando? Pop-Tarts Bowl, Cheez-It Bowl?
I loved the highlights of the Pop-Tart Bowl only because the mascot was so darn weird.
That was the best thing about it. It just went crazy viral. They did a great job with that. It was so good. And like live, it was really good too. Like on the field level and stuff like that, they played it up. All the players bought into it. The coach even bought into it. It was a lot of fun.
That's cute. And then we watched the Sugar Bowl, I think. Yeah, whatever ones were New Year's Day, we watched those ones.
Okay. The two playoff games.
Yeah.
Yeah, those
that
were two
shows
of
you
the,
how much I was like reading and then watching and then reading and then watching.
right. Yeah,
Doesn't
those
matter.
might have been the two of the best games of the year. So it was really good to see that work out in the playoff that way. Feels like every year we always have at least one of those games ends up being a blowout, and they're like, that other team didn't even belong there. Not the case this year. Both games really, really good.
I loved, after all the FSU controversy, people that don't even follow sports on my Facebook had to chime in
Right.
and be like, guess FSU didn't belong. You know?
I hate that. I hate that argument for it. They looked awful, to be fair. They looked terrible. But also, they were missing 30 players.
Whoa.
Yeah,
Wow.
so between opt-outs, transfers, and guys going to the draft, they were missing 30 players. It was
Oh, sure.
It wasn't even the same team. So they had wide receivers playing running back. They had it was
Wowzies.
It was
Okay.
crazy.
I just hope we don't keep in the vein of eating the mascots of the bowl, because I can only take so much of live seeing the mascot getting cooked and then them eating him.
Sure. There can only be so much of that. That's fair.
We don't want to let that get too out of control.
But I definitely preferred it over like the mayonnaise bowl where they just like dump mayonnaise on everybody. So I definitely preferred the let's eat the mascot. That was okay. And it was a Pop-Tart. Perfect.
That's fair. That's fair. I didn't know they dumped mayonnaise in the past. I like mayonnaise, but that's gross.
The Cheez-It Bowl, specifically the mascot, when they rolled him out earlier in the night, he held up a little sign and it said, "Not an edible mascot."
That's awesome.
So it was
Super
pretty good
funny.
that they just played into it.
Yes.
In-depth segments on topics that matter to Orange, Seminole, Osceola, and all of Central Florida. The Joe Kelley Show on WDBO.
I love your show every night. You're doing great, bud.
All right, again, if you want to see this video, it is really remarkable of a Las Vegas judge getting attacked by a defendant who leaps over the what do you call it again, Paul Cross? Over her judges.
The bench.
Thank you. I haven't been in court in a long time, so I don't know. I don't know.
Well, thanks for thinking that I have. So that's good.
You seem to know all the vernacular. I only just watch it on TV every now and again, and that's not
the gavel, the bench.
Yeah,
I can tell you.
Yeah, you know those terms really, really well.
Stenographer. Yeah, I can give you a bunch of courtroom.
Yeah, no, I don't. All right, so The View. I don't watch The View. In fact, you know what? I watch The View. I catch like the last 8 seconds of The View every day, because at the end of The View, it ends at 11:59 a.m. and I like to catch the noon news on Channel 9. And so I catch the last 8 seconds or so of The View, and it's usually Whoopi Goldberg at the end of The View, and she says something like, "Don't forget to take a moment to enjoy The View." That's how they close out. Did you guys know that? That's how they close out The View every day. And it's typically Whoopi Goldberg that says it. and so that is the only part of The View that I actually watch. I don't watch any other part of The View. But there's this one with Whoopi Goldberg. I don't think you pronounce the H.
I just snorted.
Yeah, who snorted? So
no, I can't believe it.
There's a woman on The View. Her name is Sarah Haynes. Sarah Haynes used to be a credible anchor / reporter, and I really liked Sarah Haynes. And then she joined the cast of The View, and she entered the void, as far as I'm concerned. She just falls right off my radar when you enter The View. But she pushed back on Democratic efforts to remove Donald Trump from state ballots, saying that doing so would create an appearance of election interference to Trump voters. Aha! Yes, exactly right. Why can't Democrats figure that out? Why can't Democrats figure out that every move they make against Donald Trump emboldens Donald Trump and emboldens Donald Trump supporters? Why can't they figure that out? I can't get over how boneheaded these liberal Democrats are, always thinking, aha, this is the beginning of the end of Donald Trump. Oh my goodness. How many times have we been told that this is the beginning of the end of Donald Trump? Like every single day since he came down the escalator, some liberal Democrat somewhere says, aha, this is the beginning of the end of Donald Trump, and they are wrong. All right, we'll continue to keep an eye on whether or not the Epstein list gets released today. It is now 6:55, and it has not yet been released today. We'll keep a close eye on that. Hang on. All right, Jeffrey Epstein documents released just now with nearly 1,000 pages of unsealed Epstein documents. I'm not going to click on this in case I get rickrolled again.
Actually, I already have clicked on it.
And, oh, yes, there you go. That's a great way to end the show. Instead of almost everything you wanted but didn't get for Christmas. Have a great afternoon, great evening, and we're back here with you tomorrow afternoon, 5 till 7, right here on WDBO.
We're no strangers to love. You know the rules, and so do I.
Now, from the Bogan Munz and Munz WDBO Traffic Center. Auto accident? Choose Bogan Munz and Munz.
That was a very cool way to end the Joe Kelley Show tonight. I had to admit that. We got a crash on Orange Blossom Trail at Clarkona Ocoee Road. Left lanes are closed on both the northbound and southbound sides of OBT, so use caution there. Also a crash 436 westbound at Balmy Beach with 2 right lanes shut down. This report sponsored by Mothers Against Drunk Driving. For victims of drunk and drug driving, your grief is unique, but you're not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call the 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org. From the WDBO Traffic Center, I'm Whoopi Cross.
WDBO Orlando, WOEX-FM HD2 Orlando, W297BB Orlando. Powered by Talon Wealth Management. Visit
All right, hope you guys have a great night. Paul, great job. Laurel, great job. Glad you're back. Greg, great job. Everybody in the chat group, thank you so much. I missed the last couple seconds. Somebody walked in on me. Jeff, the engineer, walked in, so I didn't get to hear what Paul was saying, and I'm sorry about that, Paul. I got distracted. I'm going to go eat a burrito, and that's it. Join us tomorrow for part 2 of my interview with Mayor Buddy Dyer, and that's it. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you.